Welcome to Campus Tailgate, the college sports podcast. My name is Jake, and I am here with Kyle. Let's go, guys. Let's crack open a beer, fire up your grills, and let's talk about some college football realignment. Kyle, I think you and I both know my opinion on college football realignment as it stands today. I think it's bewildered nonsense that shouldn't be going on at the moment. But the Pac-12 is essentially
You and
done.
I disagree on that. You and I disagree.
The Pac-12 is essentially dead.
Yes.
Right now, they're currently essentially the Pac-4, but the Power-5 is gone. The Power-5 structure is gone. You essentially have a Power-4. And honestly, we can talk about, what's happened and what's about to happen, but I think we should focus on what this means for 2 or 3 years down the line as well, especially when it comes to the Big 12 and the ACC. I think we both understand that the SEC and the Big 10 are the two conferences that are going to come out of this really unscathed. Would you say that you agree with that?
I think the biggest one to come unscathed at all is SEC. Like they're not. The SEC is totally fine.
Like they're not going to get touched.
I think the Big 10 gets a little iffy, but I also agree they're the ones that probably are like the second least unscathed here in the situation. Big 12's kind of like right in the middle. Like Big 12 just doing Big 12 things and being as mid can be. Like that's literally.
You lose your two power players in Texas and OU, right? Like the big money makers in the conference, like they're gone.
But I don't.
For those of you who don't know, OU and Texas really started this off last offseason, saying they're going to the SEC. So
it was like 2 years ago, wasn't it? Wasn't it like right after COVID? Like it was like
so
2020.
USC and UCLA said, "All right, well, if you can move to the SEC, we're going to jump into the Big 10, which makes no geographical sense, mind you. But to recap what has happened so far, from the Pac-12, 8 teams have left. You've got Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA going to the Big 10. You've got Arizona, Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah moving to the Big 12. Texas and OU will be out of the Big 12 and into the SEC after this is all said and done.
You know what's really funny, though, is that there's a year gap. So next year, when we get the 4 teams moving to the Big 12, OU and Texas are staying put for just one more year. So the Big 12 is going to be like 18 teams next year, just because of all of it's just because of the home media deals. So OU and Texas still gets one more year in the Big 12, and then they move to the SEC. So it's
dumb,
it's so
dumb. Well, the Big 10, we're going to start with the Big 10. Honestly, I think they add the heavy hitters from the Pac-12 anyway. You got Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA, all of which I think ended last year as top 20 teams in the country. So Big 10's adding some firepower, most notably USC, who I still can't wrap my head around the fact that a Southern California team is going to be playing in blizzards in the middle of December. I think it's going to be wonderful. I hope Ohio State puts them in a blender their first year in the conference. I am so mad at USC for making this move because Texas and OU at least makes a little bit of sense. Like they're attached to states and teams that already play in the SEC. Southern California is nowhere fucking near Minnesota.
So I've explained this before.
I don't care.
At least to you. Like my take. I was like, the way that this makes sense in only one aspect.
Money.
Money.
Yeah, money.
Like this will be amazing for the fans. Like I am absolutely gonna love to watch.
I think it
football.
Fucking sucks for the fans.
See, no, here's where I'm looking at it. Right, so. As a fan of the SEC, this doesn't really apply to me. But let's say you're a fan of the Big 12 or the Big 10. You now have schools in every single time zone. Every single one. No matter.
It sucks.
How does that suck? You could literally wake up from noon to midnight watching college football on Saturday. You think that sucks?
No,
that
allow
does
me
not
to explain
suck.
my perspective here because this disrupts so many. We've gone back and forth about it with how many college rivalries this is going to disrupt. I mean, even starting back with like the real start of college football realignment, West Virginia left what was, I believe, the Big East up until like 2012 and went to the Big 10 or Big 12. And we lost the Pitt-West Virginia rivalry, which is one of the best rivalries in college sports, to be quite honest with you. We're definitely losing. No, we lost it. It is
It's
not
there.
played on.
They
It is
still
not
play.
played on a yearly basis. They haven't
Okay,
played.
but
They haven't played since the realignment. What do you mean?
yeah, they played last year. What do you mean?
They've played like once since the realignment. I don't care.
They played like 4 times since the realignment.
No, they've only played like
And also,
like
you
once.
can't, I know you're talking about rivalries
And then
here,
you're talking
but the
Oregon,
schools
Oregon
already
State, Stanford, and Oregon. Like
the schools already said that they're gonna continue the rivalries. The only
school,
thing that's changing,
they're spouting
the
bullshit.
only
I don't
the
care.
only thing that's changing is who they play consistently. They're still gonna
Yeah,
have
that's
the
a
rivalries.
problem.
It's not a problem.
I'm
Not
sorry, but
you're
if I don't
telling
see Oregon,
Oregon,
Stanford
Ohio,
played it,
Oregon,
what?
Ohio State gonna be
Not a
amazing.
rivalry. Ohio
Michigan,
State's gonna
who
blow their
cares?
fucking
It's
ass
talent.
off.
Ohio State is top 4 recruitment school in college football, and
Yeah.
Oregon's consistently top 10. You're telling me you don't want that on a yearly basis?
I'm
You
telling
don't
you that
want two top.
I'm telling you that Oregon's gonna get their ass kicked.
I don't think so.
I
I
do.
do
They're gonna have
not
to
think
go into
so.
Ohio State in fucking December, and it's gonna be a problem. Hi, Molly.
They're not gonna go in December. First off, December is when the whole shit ends. So like the
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
season's over by December. They're
They're
not
gonna
gonna
head
go there.
into Ohio in the middle of a blizzard, and it's gonna be a fucking blowout, and I think it's gonna be hilarious.
It's not gonna
I
happen.
cannot wait to watch USC go into Penn State during a whiteout and get their ass handed to them.
You know what's really gonna suck though? This
What?
whole thing sucks is for the athletes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Athlete wise, this blows.
like especially I know mostly we're talking about the football implications here, but when you start putting this realignment to the other
Yeah.
sports, especially sports when they play multiple games a week, that blows.
Bro.
That
Like,
blows.
College basketball, college baseball, softball,
Baseball.
hockey, any of them,
That
gonna
blows.
suck. Obviously, this has less hockey and lacrosse implications, but
Yeah, hockey and lacrosse basically do not get affected.
Two different
They
things.
do not get affected because they each have their own conferences in general. So especially hockey. Like hockey conferences are wild.
Which, for the record, if you are interested in either of those sports, we will be covering them when hockey season and lacrosse season starts up. So make sure to stay tuned for that.
And baseball and soccer
I just feel bad because
basketball,
Rutgers on a yearly basis is gonna go to Rutgers or vice versa, or UCLA is gonna go to Rutgers or vice versa, or Oregon or what? Like that sucks.
So that's you know what is even
on
worse
a
right now?
yearly
Like
basis, that sucks.
To me, the Big Ten adding Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC is weird. But nothing is weirder than what could be happening in the ACC.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about it.
I saw this earlier last week about the rumors that are floating around with the teams being added to the ACC. Apparently, it is being voted on by the schools to add Stanford and Cal to the Atlantic.
Plus SMU.
To the Atlantic Coast Conference. Man, like you're talking about the Big Ten being weird. Like, yeah,
I know.
At least the Big Ten doesn't have the region in its fucking name. Like, it makes no. So, like, from the ACC standpoint, I kind of get where they're going.
Academically, it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Monetarily, it makes a lot of sense.
It's so weird for me with SMU though. Like SMU's kind of just like the oddball out of that trio.
No, I mean monetarily, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Academically, not really. SMU is a really good academic school.
No, but monetarily, SMU.
I mean,
what is SMU in right now? The American?
Yeah, something like that.
They like just moved.
Yeah, they have recently switched. But honestly, SMU historically, like obviously they had the scandal back in the 80s where they essentially lost their football program and then it was revived. But they even in recent decades have had some pretty good football teams. So I'm not like surprised by it, but at the same time it just doesn't make any sense. Stanford and Cal being added to the ACC, that's fucking ridiculous.
Like
I'm really
Like I'm mostly a fan of this realignment going on,
dude.
but that one just makes zero sense to me. I don't understand. Like if I'm Cal and Stanford, what are you doing? Why the ACC?
Because the Big Ten and the Big 12 won't accept them, and they don't want to combine with the Mountain West.
So I saw this article that the backup plan for Cal and Stanford is to petition to join the Big 12. And if I'm the Big 12, I don't really see why you wouldn't. Big 12 wants anything.
Here's the thing, right? So you're the Big 12 is losing Texas and OU, and we're talking about this earlier, like a little bit. They essentially, it becomes a Power 3 with the ACC, the Big 10, and the SEC. The Big 12 is kind of the odd one out there. Like, I would argue that the ACC, especially with Clemson and Florida State, have more heavy hitters than the Big 12 without OU or Texas.
I don't
even
think
with Utah joining that conference, I don't like. I see them as little brother to the rest of the Power Fives.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that drastic, is what you're looking at, because like they
without
still
OU
have
in Texas.
Yeah, even without like they still have West Virginia, which is consistently
They haven't been good. They really haven't been good.
They've been fun to watch. They're always fun to watch.
They're fun to watch, but they haven't been good. Like,
and if you're considering the ACC, they only have 2 powerhouses, maybe 3. Maybe
UNC's been pretty good
that's
for the last 5, 6
that's
years
what
or so.
They were the third one I was throwing in there.
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, Clemson and Florida State have won national titles since 2010. Like, if you're talking about in terms of team success, like the Big 12 is little brother when it comes to the other Power Fives.
Oh, it has been in football forever. And
that's what I mean. Like, that's why from Cal and Stanford's point, it makes sense. Like, athletically.
Yeah, it makes sense to join the ACC athletically.
That's what I mean.
Because it's better competition, but like nothing else with joining the ACC makes sense for those. Like nothing else. Like,
I mean, none of this makes sense anyway. So who cares? We threw logic out the window, bro. They're gonna be Southern California teams playing in the Big Ten in Michigan in November around Thanksgiving. The Big 12 realignment makes some sense. Like, it's not really that bad.
Yeah.
Arizona, Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah joining the Big 12. Like, I mean, West Virginia's a little bit far away, but you had Texas and OU. You have Kansas. You've got Texas Tech still. Oklahoma State's there. Like, it's a little bit farther west, but it's not as bad. It's not as egregious. Like, I get it.
Yeah, you throw a map out there. You see what the map actually looks like. It's not that bad.
Yeah, no, that's not bad at all. So we're not focused as much on the Big 12, honestly, because I don't think Arizona, Utah, Colorado, or Arizona State replaces Texas or OU or like moves the needle. Mostly I'm looking at the Big 10 because obviously USC is really good. At the time of this recording, they have they beat San Jose State 56-28 yesterday, but I mean,
I'm surprised San Jose State put up 28, to be honest.
I'm not.
I'm kind of shocked at that.
We'll talk about it in a later episode, but
fair enough.
But no, I mean, honestly, with the Big 10 and the ACC, it just doesn't make any damn sense, dude. You're going to the Power-4, and I hate it. I really do. And really, I consider it more of a Power-3 because I don't think the Big 12 is as good as the other 3, but they're better than every group of 5. So, like, I guess.
Realistically, I think it really comes down to 2. Like, it's a Power-2, essentially.
Yeah,
like, you look at the top 10. With the additions now of Washington, Oregon, like the top 10 schools in the AP ranking, you have 1 SEC, 2 SEC, 3 SEC, 3 SEC schools. Then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Big 10 schools, and you're sprinkling in Florida State and Clemson in there. So like, ACC is gonna stay relevant just because of those 2 schools. But if Clemson and Florida State stay angry like they are, like Florida State and Clemson,
not as angry. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this in a minute
we are,
too.
But Florida State and Clemson are not happy at the moment, and especially talking about adding schools on the fucking West Coast for the ACC like that.
Yeah.
Like, for those that are unaware,
Florida State's gonna be mad either way. They're leaving.
Yeah, like there are talks right now that Florida State and Clemson are both like allies in the fact that they want more money from the ACC, they want a better media deal, and 2, they are not in favor of expansion at the moment. And they what the like official like quote is like, if they are in favor of expansion, it has to be geographically relevant schools. If you look at a map, the only real geographical relevant schools...
I mean, it'd be like UMass, like
UConn, maybe Tulane. You might be able to swing Tulane away. UCF. But the thing is, UCF
they're in the Big 12.
Just joined the Big 12. Tulane just joined the American.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah, but it's a deal. Like the meaning
geographically
is like
relevant school. I mean, USF, like.
Yeah,
all
like
the random Florida schools, like
there's a couple.
South Carolina, but they're in the SEC, so they're not moving.
Coastal Carolina could make sense.
Coastal Carolina would make sense.
That'd be a fun one. That would be a fun little addition there, especially with Clemson. Maybe develop a rivalry. Probably not. Clemson would win like next 20 years before Coastal Carolina can compete. But I mean, like,
honestly, it would be a rivalry. Not that bad. I like Coastal.
No, Coastal. I love their
good football.
Ugly ass teal Fields too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Speaking of the ACC, let's move into what we think this could really turn into. Because personally, I'm thinking this just turns into a Power-2 where the Big Ten and the SEC are just trying to bang up on each other, and with the new college football playoff format, they each get like 4 teams in.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure if the ACC is going to survive. I'm really not
I don't
sure.
think so either.
If Florida State and or Clemson bail, the ACC gets fucked because then everything I was talking about the Big 12 with applies to the ACC.
Yeah.
You have a Power-2, a Mid-2, and a Group of 5.
Yeah, it's just not going to work with if Florida State and Clemson leave, which I honestly think they will in the next 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I don't think the ACC is really going to survive. I think they're next, and I think it's going to be a nice little fight between the SEC and the Big Ten, to be honest. Like I think the Big Ten's going to swallow up Boston College and Syracuse, maybe Virginia. Maybe.
I'm honestly not sure if BC survives as a Power 5. I mean, I
think they will.
They haven't been good recently. The
No,
last time they were relevant nationally was 2007 when Matt Ryan was on campus, so that's a little bit of a...
They weren't bad last year. I know they weren't
bad, but
they weren't
good.
ranked, but they had a winning record, right?
I don't think so.
Weren't they 6-6 or 6-5?
That's not a winning record. If they're around 500.
For BC's 500's a winning record. It's
bro, no.
Hold on, let's look here.
We have won Orange Bowls, my good sir. That doesn't mean shit to me.
Listen, don't be so dramatic here.
I'm pissed.
Yeah, I know you are.
Yeah, but the real question is who controls Virginia? Does the SEC get Vatek in Virginia, or does the Big Ten?
I could say Big Ten getting Virginia Tech. I don't know about Virginia itself, to be honest. Like Virginia,
I think Vatek fits more in the SEC, to be honest with you. But that's just me.
I don't know. Regardless, one of them's going to the SEC.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Florida State and Clemson easily go to the SEC. Duke and UNC probably go to the SEC. Miami probably could go to the SEC.
Well, yeah, Miami fits in the SEC.
Yeah. Boston College. Can I see last?
They were 3-9 last season.
When
they were 6-5 in 2020.
That's what it was.
From 2016 to like 2018, they were like 7-5. So they haven't really been great. They haven't been awful. They haven't been great.
It was 2020 season I was thinking of. I was gonna say I knew they were decent somewhere recently.
Like at the end of the day, in 5 to 6 years, I don't think the SEC or the ACC exists. The Big 12 might exist, but it is no longer considered a Power 5. We're really in an era of a Power 4 anyway, but...
So I think the Big 12 will survive. I just don't think they'll be able to survive as a football school. Like I think the Big 12...
You mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry. I think the Big 12 will... Big 12 will absolutely dominate in
they're
basketball
dominant basketball, yeah.
I think the ACC could too. If the ACC as a whole could somewhat survive, somehow if they can like fight off, like if Florida State and Clemson do leave, if they can somehow keep everything else, I think the ACC will survive as a basketball conference.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're talking strictly football. The only two that I think can survive this long term are the Big Ten and the SEC. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, yeah, you're going to end up with a Power 2 where the Big Ten and the SEC are essentially going to have to rename themselves because it won't be the SEC or the SEC might be able to keep
SEC.
The Big Ten can't. The Big Ten will be able to.
What would the Big Ten do? They're going to
they'd be the SEC and then the rest. The rest.
Fair enough. The Big Ten's going to have like 16 schools next year, right?
Well, yeah, no, that's my big issue, right? It's like
they already have 14, right?
Yeah, and then they're adding 4. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 14 now, and they're adding 4, so they're gonna have 18 schools next year.
Dude. The Big 18. I mean, that's not that bad.
No, they'll add at least 2 more and just call themselves the Big 20. To be honest with you,
which would make sense. Hey, there
Except
you go.
Half these schools aren't big, like
there you go.
Maryland, Minnesota. Never mind. Doesn't matter. But yeah.
There's some weird schools in the Big Ten that it's just so weird to me. Like Illinois still being in here, Northwestern still being in here. Like I know geographically
was decent up until like 3 years ago, but
I know geographically they make sense. Like what the hell is Rutgers doing here, man?
Yeah, I still don't know how that happened, but we were not going to talk about it.
What is Rutgers doing here, man?
But at the end of the day, I hate it for college football. I think it's a bad thing. I think it's actually just going to destroy a lot of stuff. But
I
at the
love
end
it.
of the day, they're going to do for money. They're going to do what they're going to do for money. And the Pac-12 is going to die. Like, it's dead. I don't. They obviously could. They obviously could like absorb the Mountain West, but like
that's what I was just gonna say. Like, what is the next step for the Pac-12?
It's either absorb the Mountain West or die. But then the Mountain West becomes kind of like a non-factor, which kind of sucks. But
if Stanford and Cal don't go anywhere, and we literally do have a Pac-4 next year,
I don't think they'd let that happen. Like they'd have to add.
Well, what are they gonna do? Who's gonna?
Either they drop down to the Mountain West, or like, and absolve the Pac-12, or they try to absorb the Mountain West. Like that's it. Like that is the only thing that we could. That's the only thing.
So, I think genuinely they will absorb a lot of the Mountain West schools.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of them that are decent at football too. If you're looking at this from just a like football perspective, you still have Boise State, you got Colorado State, Fresno State, you got Utah State, Wyoming, Hawaii. Like you have decent football schools in this conference. So like it makes sense for the
Pac-12. Didn't Hawaii get blown up by Vanderbilt last night?
I don't think it was a blowout. It was, and I know they lost. Well, it was 35-28. Yeah.
Oh, that's not that bad. Okay, not that bad.
It was they lost by a touchdown. Yeah. So
yeah.
Like realistically, Hawaii in the Pac-12 now that'd be nice. Imagine that'd be fun because I would like that. Yeah, that'd be fun. Because if the Pac-12 absorbs the Mountain West, like, what are they? Are they Pac-12 Mountain West
the
Conference?
Pac-12 as a Power-5 is dead. Let me just be like dead.
For football, absolutely.
Yeah, football-wise, dead. Like they could absorb like Gonzaga and some other schools for basketball if they wanted to, but
they
like,
should. If
Gonzaga
absolutely should. Gonzaga.
Oh well, yeah, they'd make more money.
If I'm Gonzaga, even without it, the Gonzaga can never consistently get over the hump every single year. You join. Yeah, the home. Exactly. I said what I said. I said what I said on purpose. If they can find a way to get over that mark and like they're always consistently right there. If they start playing harder schools, it's done. The same with like St. Mary's, who is like historically Gonzaga's rival. So like you add those two to the Pac-12.
Probably solid for basketball, but as a football conference, they're dead. Like it's game.
Oh, absolutely. I think 100% agree.
But on that note, guys, that is our thoughts on college football realignment. Obviously, I hate it. We've got some thoughts on what's going to happen 2 to 3, maybe even 5 years down the line. You're going to have a Power 2. I think most people can predict this by now that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be the premier football conferences in the country, which they already are, but they're just adding more firepower. I fear for the ACC. I don't fear for the Big 12 because they're going to be they're just going to continue to do what they do. The Pac-12 is dead as a football conference. They could add the Mountain West, but like I don't think that means anything for them. And on that note, see you next time.